Colette, I loved this film. I was sitting there with my friend waiting for it to start, and there was a huge poster of Keira Knightley in this little boater and this exquisite French turn of this last century costume. And I leant over to Lucy and I said, I want to direct films like this. I knew we were in for a treat because I knew that the story I was about to watch was a true story based on this writer, Colette, who was just a country girl, and she married a very successful, much older writer who was part of the Paris scene in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the Belle Epoque, where Paris was just this extraordinarily extravagant place with parties and theatre going on and writing going on. And he's a very successful writer. His name was Willie. And she's young and naive. So we see those early days and we see her grow into an amazing writer. But of course, she doesn't start publishing her own stuff because he reads it and he dismisses it as all a bit naive and rubbish and that sort of thing. But when he revisits it, when he needs to make a buck, he does a bit of editing with her, and this story that she writes becomes this serial, and it's an utter sensation, and women are buying and reading these stories. And of course you can sort of guess the rest, that she then kicks the traces and at a certain point wants to be recognized in her own right as a writer. And of course, he's not so keen on that, is he? He's played by Dominic West, who's actually really good in this. I say actually really good because sometimes you can see him standing outside himself when he's talking, and he won't let the truth come through sometimes. And in this, the part is very suited to him, let's put it that way. So maybe he connected more completely with it, but I really enjoyed him. And Keira Knightley, same thing. She has started, I don't know if it's because she's had a baby now or she's in her 30s. She's lived a bit of life, but gone is all this chin acting and this chest acting that she does. She's relaxed into it and she's grounded, and you're really interested in what she's doing and what she's thinking, even though she might not be saying it. And this writer Colette, she wrote Gigi. She wrote the original book for that turned into the famous musical, and she was wild and crazy, and you get a peek into that world and into the choices that she made, even though of course society was not completely on board with everything that she chose to do. You get this wonderfully rich, deep backstory of France was like on the eve of the First World War, when of course everything went away, everything was destroyed. And I really, really enjoyed it. There was a Q&A afterwards with Keira Knightley and two of the producers. This film reminded me a lot of Hidden Figures and some of the other stories that are being put into film now that are about women, strong, smart women who made a difference in history, but all the while behind the veil of the men who were in power. And Keira Knightley talked a little bit about how this film was done before they'd shot it, before Me Too. You know, it was Me Too bringing out all of these new stories now with women and giving them a chance. She said, no, we shot it before, 2 years ago. And same with Hidden Figures. So I asked the question, it's wonderful to see these stories that I don't know anything about. Why has it taken so long? One of the producers, he said for years. Number Nine, his production company, have been proposing stories with female leads, female stories, female historical stories, and it's always harder to get those films financed because there's a female lead, or a female, even the actress they're proposing is not box office enough to get funded straight away. And then he pointed out that in the story of Colette, she became successful because it was women 120 years ago reading her stories, buying and reading her stories. It's white middle class grey-haired men who are making the decisions, and we have to start changing that. And I think it must be changing because these stories are coming to the fore, They're brilliant stories. They're being wonderfully made into film. I want to make more stories like that. I want to make films like Colette. I wanted to make period films. I want to make films about real people. And I really enjoyed watching this one, and I highly recommend it. Another 4 out of 5. Be sure to press the subscribe button here on YouTube and then go to my Patreon page where I have loads more film reviews and chat about being in films, making films, and watching films. See you at the movies.